Hello again everybody. Let's have a chat about reverse dieting. So if reverse dieting isn't one of the most important parts of losing weight, then it must be right up there, because what good is losing all the weight if you're just going to put it straight back on again, okay? People tell me all the time, Ben, I can lose the weight, but every time I lose it, it just seems to come straight back on. The reason this happens is because once you finish a hard cut where you lose a lot of fat and you just stop doing what you're doing and go back to living a normal life, obviously you're going to put the weight straight back on, okay? There is a process to maintaining a new low body fat percentage, and it is just as important as getting the weight off in the first place. So what reverse dieting actually is the period after you lose a lot of fat, then what you need to do in terms of diet to keep the fat off long term, okay? As you would have heard me say in many of my other videos, is that I personally like to either bulk or cut for a 16-week period, and 16 weeks is also how long I recommend my clients focus on the one specific goal as well. The reason I like and recommend to do 16 weeks is because it is long enough time to go through the correct process without doing anything too drastic that can cause any long-term damage to the body. So you can make a lot of progress in this time, and it does give you enough time to fix any of your previous bad habits and replace them with good ones. Okay, so in this video I am going to teach you what to do after you finish a 16-week cut, which is a 16-week fat loss period to make sure you can maintain your new physique and keep all the fat you have lost off for good. As I said earlier, what's the point in losing all that body fat if you're just going to put it back on again? It really does not have to be like that. Again, you just need to go through the correct process. I am just quickly going to recap on how to lose fat effectively in the first place, even though I have already taught you this in my video, how to lose fat through dieting correctly. And then I'll explain how to reverse diet properly so you're able to maintain the results you've achieved after your 16-week weight loss period, the cut, okay? Now, before you make the commitment to losing fat, you need to come up with your original base diet, which I'll teach you how to do in my video, Protein, Carbs and Fats, my macro video, okay? We are going to assume that you're eating 7 meals per day. Now, when you start your original base diet, you have protein in all 7 meals, you have carbs in all 7 meals, and fats in 2 of your meals. Your protein and fats stay exactly the same from start to finish, and your carbohydrates are the only variable, okay? The only thing that changes. Now, in week 1 of the cut, you're on the absolute maximum amount of food that your body can handle, okay? You have the maximum amount of carbs in all 7 of your meals, okay? So bring on all the carbs, happy days, okay? You will not be dropping any fat at this point. It is the maximum amount of food that you will be eating for the entire 16-week period, okay? So enjoy it. You need to let your body get used to a high amount of food. If you start on a minimal amount of food, what foods do you have left to cut from your diet and drop body fat, okay? There's just nowhere to go after you're on minimal. So you need to get your body used to the highest amount of food it can handle. You eat that amount of food for, let's say, 2 weeks to start with, so you can allow your body to get used to that amount of food. You need to let your body weight stabilise on that amount of food before you start the cutting process, okay? The next week you'll cut some carbs from one of your meals. You might drop just 1 kilo, let's say. Then the next week you add in an hour's cardio. You might drop another kilo. Then the week after that you cut carbs from another meal. You might drop another half a kilo. Then the week after that you add in another hour's cardio on top of your training program you're on. You might drop another kilogram. So throughout the whole 16-week period, each week you are gradually cutting carbs and increasing your cardio as your weight slowly decreases, okay? If you cut your carb intake gradually, just nice and slowly, you will continue to lose fat throughout the entire 16-week, and you won't plateau. You will maintain all, if not some of your muscle mass, or most of your muscle mass, and have a good amount of energy for the majority of the process. You do not want to cut your carbs too fast, okay? Like I said before, if you cut your carbs too fast and we get down to the minimum too early, we'll have nowhere else to go for the rest of the time. Now, as you can see, after about 10 weeks or so of increasing cardio and cutting carbs, your carb intake is going to get pretty low and your cardio is going to get pretty high. So the further you get into your cut, the better your results are going to be. Now, after about 4 or 5 weeks of cutting, you'll get so hooked on the results, and each week you're just going to get leaner and leaner by gradually cutting the carbs 1 meal at a time on a weekly to fortnightly basis, okay? At about week 14 or 15 or 16 week of the cut, when you've nearly completed the weight loss process, the only carbs you'll have in your diet are your post-workout carbs, okay? At this point, you'll be training 6 days a week plus a few extra hours cardio, and you're only eating carbs post-workout, okay? Those are the ones straight after your workout. Now, let's say at week 16 you've lost 15 kilograms and you're absolutely over the moon with how you look, your abs are popping, your veins are all showing, everything's good, but at the same time you also need to be realistic. Living on 6 days training plus excessive amounts of cardio plus little to no carbohydrates for an extended period of time is not a fun time or a maintainable way to live, okay? You just can't maintain that forever. You'll burn out, you'll crash, and if that happens, you'll put the weight back on very, very quickly. We don't want that. So once you have completed week 16 of your cut and you're happy with how much fat you've lost, this is where we start the reverse diet, okay? The week after week 16, which will be week 17, or week 1 of the reverse diet, all you do that week is keep your diet exactly the same, but you cut the cardio in half, okay? So if you were doing 6 hours of additional cardio, you'll only be doing 3 now. Or if you're doing 4 hours of additional cardio on top of your program, you'll now only be doing 2. So all you do the week after you finish the cut is cut your cardio in half, okay? That's all I'm asking you to do. The week after, you will add a small amount of carbohydrates back into either your breakfast or your pre-workout meal. I mean, I personally prefer to add them into my breakfast because I find that I've got more energy for the entire day then. But a lot of people, and this is probably just as effective, would say to put the carbs back into your pre-workout meal. Either one is fine, they'll both work, okay? It's the same amount of calories throughout the day, but it's just when you prefer to have that kick of energy for the day, okay? So whatever carbs you had cut previously, you put them back into that meal, 1 meal at a time. The next week you add your carbs back into another meal, and so on until you have carbs back in all 7 of your meals. Each week you add a small amount of carbs back into your diet at a rate your body can handle, and now this is where the scales come back into it again, okay, so we can measure it. If you add carbs, let's say for 3 weeks in a row, and you put on over 1 kilogram in that 3rd week, that's just not good. You know, that's not a realistic amount of muscle for you to put on in 1 week. So the week after that, you don't increase your carbs again, okay? Because it means we've increased carbs a little bit too quickly if you've put on, you know, over 1 kilogram in that 1 week. You really need to monitor it because you can only increase your carbs at a rate where your body is putting on a maximum of 300 to 800 grams per week. Any more than that, and you'll just start putting on body fat, okay? We don't want that. It's not realistic for you to stay literally at the same body fat percentage as you were on at basically no carbs like you were in week 15 and 16 of the cut. If you lose 15 kilograms from the 16-week cut and then reverse dieted for 6, 7 or 8 weeks and only put on 2 kilograms, but you got all the carbs back into your diet, that would be a massive success. Okay, a 15 kilogram loss with a 2 kilogram gain, eating the exact same amount of food as when you started the original 16-week cut, that's unbelievable. That's what dreams are made of, okay? Reverse dieting is a very effective process. The slower you add the carbs back into your diet, the better, because that's how you stay leaner, okay? Now, once you finish the reverse dieting process and you have carbs back in all 7 meals, is when you will reassess and we'll set some new goals, okay? If you want to get even leaner, you go through the reverse dieting process after a cut, and once that reverse diet process is completed and you have all your carbohydrates back in all your meals, you can start the 16-week cut all over again because you've gotten your body used to all the carbs again. Okay? If you don't get those carbs back into your diet, your body will eventually plateau because you've got no more carbs left to cut and you can't physically do any more cardio. Okay? You're as fit as you can be. Now, once you have maxed out on cutting all your carbs, you can't do any more cardio, and you've pushed yourself to your absolute limits, you don't just stop and go back to living normally, okay? You don't just add back in all your carbs and do no cardio at all. You need to reverse diet out of the cut properly so that your new body weight and body fat percentage is basically locked in, okay? You want to keep looking that good or better. If you reverse diet out of the cut and you're happy with how lean you are, this is when you can either start cutting fat again or you can start focusing on building some muscle, okay? That's the fun time, that's all the food. Now, you can start a 16-week bulk, which I teach you how to do in my video, how to build muscle through dieting correctly. If you do decide you want to start building muscle, I really want to place a huge emphasis on keeping yourself as lean as you can whilst you're growing, because you don't want to put too much fat back on. When you're building muscle, you can't rush it. You just need to go through the correct process, okay? Reverse dieting is very simple. You can obviously understand how it gets its name now, because you're just doing the exact reverse of what you were doing when you were cutting, okay? When you were trying to get the weight off, you were gradually cutting your carbohydrates to lose the fat. Now you're gradually increasing them at a point where you're not putting on any fat at all, but still increasing your carb intake. Like I said earlier, if you lose 15 kilograms from a 16-week cut, which is very realistic if you have the weight to lose, then you complete the reverse diet process, get yourself back on the same amount of food as when you started, and you've only put on 2 kilos back on, that's a massive win, and it's very realistic. So you are eating the same amount of food, but you're literally 13 kilograms lighter. Obviously the numbers will vary from person to person, but the more strict you follow the cutting process, the better your results are going to be, okay? The only way you can do this is by reverse dieting and going through the reverse dieting process that I'm going to teach you, okay? The reason I love this sport and the process of improving my physique is because it just never ends. Once you complete the reverse diet, you're back at square one. So it's time to set some new goals, time to keep getting better. It all comes down to how hard you're prepared to work to get the body of your dreams, okay? Whether you want to lose more fat or whether you want to start building muscle, once you've completed the reverse diet process, you'll be in the perfect position to reassess where you want to take your physique and start going in that direction, okay? To me, and hopefully to you as well, there is no maintenance period. There's no, I just want to look how I do now. Why? I wouldn't, but why would you go to the gym to look exactly the same? Progression is one of the most important factors when it comes to being happy. If you're getting better, your life's getting better, your relationships are getting better, your health's getting better, your training's improving, your career and whatever areas in your life that's important to you, you are going to be very happy, okay? I say it to my clients all the time, you need to raise your standards and then aim even higher, okay? You just get a picture of what you want to believe to be the perfect body and say to yourself, I'm going to do literally everything I possibly can to get as close to this as possible. In the bodybuilding or fitness world, there is no perfect. It's all down to the individual's opinion, just however they want to look, that person, what they think is perfect, okay? I personally admire and respect heaps of different looking physiques. I admire physiques like Rich Piana, rest in peace. I admire physiques like Greg Plitz, and even though there's 50 kilograms difference between the two guys, both of them have very, very appealing physiques, okay? There's no right or wrong, you can look however you want to look, okay? Just because you think something looks good doesn't mean I'm going to think it looks good, and vice versa, okay? So really, all you need to do is figure out exactly how you want to look, what you believe is perfect in your eyes, and spend the rest of your life, or as long as you want, working towards getting that physique, okay? It really, really is an amazing and very enjoyable journey. I wish you guys all the very best with it, okay? Happy training.